Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Z Spot with Kelly Zerbis.
And Marla White.
Kelly Z
Ooh.
of the Z Spot.
Yeah. I love you.
It's my favorite name ever.
I love you. And you know, we've just been having such a fun day today, doing a bunch of shows. And this one today is going to be Weekend Warriors. From Weekend Warriors to Full-Time Passion.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And all three of us, we've got Casey Reagan from Music You Can See in
Hi,
the room
Casey.
with us.
Hello,
Welcome
ladies.
back.
Thank you very much.
All three of us have been the Weekend Warriors, which is doing your hobby or your thing that you like, that
Yep.
you really want to do, and then
Yep.
finally turn it into a full-time
Yeah.
job, passion, all that. So,
Yeah.
so Marla.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us just a quick bit about how you
Quick.
became, yes.
Quick. Got
And then
it.
we're going to talk about how it's made your life better. But
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Absolutely. So, I started freelancing. I was working full time, and it wasn't bringing enough bacon. So, I started freelancing and doing PR and social media marketing for various people, all word of mouth. And I sort of, side hustled right into a full time gig.
Wow.
A side hustle baby, just made it happen, and it started kind of taking over, and I'm happily
And
on
it was
my own
able, you
now.
were able to choose the things you wanted, which is
Absolutely.
all about
and
it, right?
and I was working on the weekends until midnight, and everything I could to make it happen, and it did, and it's awesome. I
and
think
how was
follow your passion.
pulling that lever to quit that job?
It was tough.
Yeah.
It took a while. I had to make sure that I was financially set, that I had a solid reputation, and that I can actually just close that door, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm so grateful for all of my full-time jobs, absolutely all my life. It led me to where I am today, but so thrilled that I started side hustling and really, made it into my gig.
Her gig. And
Full-time.
Casey, you.
I'm
Tell
a
us
side hustle king right here. Are you kidding me?
I love it. I love it.
Good.
She may have invented the side hustle, but I'm working on perfecting it.
Awesome. Do it. Take
Do it. So tell us a little bit about how that happened for you.
It was, the hobby became too expensive to be a hobby. Cameras
perfect.
started costing me, way too much. I went from consumer to professional, and that was a huge step. When I bought my editing computer cost almost $100,000.
Oh, my Lord.
So
Yes.
Good.
So you
Now-
realize.
that was when I said, this is way more than a hobby.
Wow.
I'm gonna have to start doing something with this.
Yeah,
make
you
some
better be
money.
hustling.
So,
even though, in a way, your full-time position can kind of help pay for those things.
Right.
Right. At the
Right.
same time,
Yep.
if you want to take it seriously, then you have to find a way to pay for it and have a good
And
time
to
to
make a
passion,
living.
full-time passion.
well, and time. It's a huge thing.
Yes.
Editing
Yes.
is time consuming, labor intensive, not hard labor, but sitting in just hours of reviewing tape, and it's a lot of work.
And did the full-time job know you were editing films and videos?
I was the boss of the full time job, so that was my business too. So
so good.
I knew the boss.
But it wasn't a business you didn't really want to stay in as much.
It did me good for 20 years.
Yes,
Over
yes,
20 years.
yes, of course.
It
Of course.
it paid the mortgage and kept me alive, and if I had to, I could fall back on it, which is something else that made it easier for me to make the plunge and go from having the job to not having the job. I mean, I was the boss there, but it was legit.
And it feels like for both you guys could both fall back. You could actually go
Yeah,
get a job.
totally.
You could do that. And so
Right.
does that give you a little bit more feeling of safety?
No.
Do you need that to keep
No.
going forward with your passions?
Not
No.
at this point with
No,
me.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
me neither.
Yeah.
I don't want to fall back. I don't want a plan B. This is it.
Right.
Yeah.
This is
Because some
absolutely
people need that.
Nah.
And I think if they hold on to it too much, but it's okay to have to know it. That's what
Yeah.
I think parents sometimes say, go get your college degree, and then you could try your passion, right?
Then you
Sometimes-
can
Sort
be an
of.
actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, short of burning the bridge. You
Yes,
know,
yeah, right.
I'm not gonna. I'm
Right.
not gonna say never, or
Yeah.
but
Right.
it's nice to have just the knowledge that if I had to, I could go back to work and make enough money to stay alive.
But do you feel like you say that to yourself because you're nervous about going for this passion?
Extremely.
Yes. That's what I'm guessing with you, that you're just a little nervous. And so you almost are saying that
because
to yourself.
because there's so many highs and lows.
Right.
I mean, I go from in the studio
Right.
with John Mayall to
Yep.
there's another extreme.
Right.
So sometimes the time between gigs is so long, I got to go out and make my own work.
Right.
That's why this magazine thing, the Music You Can See magazine, when it finally launches, it's going to take all my time. There's
course.
There's not going to be any free time to even worry about things not working.
And the
out.
money probably is not going to be rolling in right away.
Actually, we're doing pretty good so far with ads.
great.
We've got some.
Congratulations.
We've already got some people on board with ad sales, and I found that if you treat these venues with respect and not call out the bar owner as the evil, evil guy that won't pay the band, or
Right.
there's a lot of that going around,
Right.
and there's a lot of it that actually happens. There's a lot of guys that are not treating the artists the way they should be treated, but you can't focus on that.
Right.
You gotta pretty much seek out the positive.
And you
in
being
the
an owner of his own company, okay, you take that and you appreciate the owners. That's
Yes.
what I think a lot of
Yeah,
artists have
for sure.
lost. They don't realize an owner has to pay the bills, the rent, all that stuff.
And that puts me a little bit at odds with the artists at times.
right.
Only because you got to see both sides.
You do. Yeah.
And guys, get on board here.
Right.
All these artists.
Right.
You get a lot farther being positive and working with these guys,
Right.
and maybe taking $100 less for the gig this time with a promise of 5 more gigs in the future, or however it works. I'll tell you, Southern California is a rough market for music. For
Yes.
musicians,
Yes.
for live music, because it is so prevalent. There is so much free out there. Blues jams,
Yep.
jams everywhere. You go up and down Sunset Boulevard, you pay $10, you get in, you see some of the names of guys you see, and they're incredible. All the artists live here,
Right.
so when they're back home from off the road, they're not playing gigs. They're just going out and noodling around at clubs and bars, and the baked potato.
Right.
Are you kidding me? Have you ever been to that place? Seen some of the names that roll through that
Right.
joint?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
it's like, again, your head's on a swivel.
No, and it's true. And a lot of the weekend warriors here in LA, there's a lot of people who do full-time jobs,
Right,
musicians.
of course, I'm sure.
And they're out, hosting these jams
That's right.
or keeping the music alive so that the main acts, when they come in, there's a
right.
bed for them to play on. I think it has a lot to do with.
Well,
Why was music ever? If we're going to talk a little bit about music, because PR is a little different, right? Than music. Say music. We play because we're, we played in our bedroom, and then we want to go play in a club and invite all our friends, kind of thing. And music is supposed to be something about community. That's how it kind of started.
Well, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, the artist. The artists I'm talking about are
The huge,
not
yeah.
well, not the mega artists.
Right.
The mega artists, we just rebuilt the Forum.
Right.
We've got Staples
Right.
Center. We've got
Right.
the Grammy Museum.
Right.
We've got there's a handful, a plethora
Right.
of venues for
Right.
these big name artists to come through, the national artists.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the local guys and the smaller, the Alligator Records guys.
Yes.
Not the Capitol or the CBS guys, the next level down, the Ripcat guys, the Mighty Mojo Prophets, the White Boy James and James Harmon and all these guys. They have to go out. They have to play the circuit. They have to go down south. They have to go to Texas. They got to go back to Tennessee, to Nashville and Memphis, and hit the eastern seaboard, because California, we're giving it away out here. Right. There's a blues jam. I mean, Cadillac Zack is a big part of the Southern California blues scene.
Right.
He still has trouble getting a lot of the artists to play just because it's
right.
a jam.
Right.
Or it's, donations at the door, however the band gets paid. There's
Right. Well, that's why, in a way, LA is kind of the weekend warrior haven.
Well, that's what it all boils back
right.
to.
And so, if you kind of accept it for that, is what it is. Like actors too, they all there's not more than musicians doing things for free, but there is other places that they can go, and I do think that I wish venues here would be more susceptible to pain and figure out ways, but they're trying to pay their bills. It's
exactly.
hard to. It's really hard, but
it's cyclical.
It's really, and I know a lot of these musicians that are actually have names and are touring. They also have other jobs.
Right.
They're graphic artists,
Right.
or they're doing the kind of because it's
the
come to that.
a big part of it is the pay to play thing.
Right.
With the Coach House,
Right.
if you're an opening act,
Yes.
you got to sell tickets
Right.
to open for these bigger names.
Right.
I don't see it as being as bad as everybody claims.
Right. It's
you
not.
know,
I
it's
don't
not,
think so, yeah.
If you want to, you got to sell tickets to your gig anyway.
Right.
You know, okay, you say it's not your job. Well, yeah, it is kind of your job.
Well, actually, it's kind of nice to have a job if you're playing the Coach House. You know why? Because you can ask all your employees that you work with to buy tickets.
You can make them.
I mean,
you can make them buy
'em.
tickets.
Because, you know, like
withdraw
me,
the money straight out of their paycheck.
with me, I never really had like a job with more than 2 people that worked in the office. Okay, I always never. Perry always says, you know, when I have this band Kelly's Lot, and so to invite people, it's always had to be people I've met through the gigs. I don't have like this full-time job anymore that I can go to and invite 20 people from the job.
Right.
So in a way, you know, it's all there's so many different types of things. But back to Weekend Warrior, into passion for you guys. When was there ever a moment where you wanted to jump back into the full-time thing? Because
never.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
And
no,
it's only been 6 months for me. So no, I haven't got there yet. No seller's remorse yet.
Yeah, and for me, you know, I love my Weekend Warrior musicians who have full-time jobs and that they play. There's some
Weekend
talented
Warrior.
You got to
people.
respect. You got to
They're
respect.
so
that's
talented.
That's dedication.
No, I'm just
that
saying,
is passion.
right.
Weekend
that
Warrior is not a bad tag.
No,
It's
not
not
at
a bad
all.
label.
Not at all.
A lot of people
wear it with pride.
look at it as a derogatory term.
No.
It is not.
Not at all.
No, it is a great
No.
term. If you can really embrace what you're doing. That the problem is with the Weekend Warriors is that some people think it's like, I do it
It's
part
fluff.
time.
It's
Right.
fluff.
Well, if you do it part time, I mean, you know, I did it for part time, but I was going and playing in Europe.
Yep.
So that's my part time.
Yep.
Who, you know, that part time is pretty darn good. Playing
Yeah.
in France.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so,
if you do it right,
right,
all you got to do is part time.
and then also, you could do part time and play the Troubadour. How many other acts get to play the Troubadour? You could sell tickets and play the Troubadour. You could still make money at these gigs if you sell enough tickets.
Yeah.
Okay, and I understand that pay to play is tough, and there's some of them, forget it. There's some that are just out of control. But like the Mint, okay, really quick, this place in LA, they basically say once you've sold 30 tickets, you get 80% of the door.
Right.
So they're just trying to motivate you to
Yes.
sell more
Right.
tickets because how many bands are waiting in line to play a place
Right.
like that?
Right,
So,
of course.
you know, it's everybody's got a story, but the thing is, the Weekend Warrior does it with passion.
Yep, for sure.
And not all of them because they've had kids, right? Mm-hmm. Right? You had
I
kids.
had, yeah, I had
you had
two.
kids.
I did.
And did you wait for your kids to get old before you did that dive, or what happened with that?
Yeah, I probably didn't want to wait, but yeah, I did. I mean, they were both out of the house, had their own families, their own gig too, for sure.
Right.
But yeah, it probably wasn't by choice. I mean, if I could have financially figured it out how to do it earlier,
Yeah.
for sure I would have.
So advice, Casey, to somebody who is doing something on the side, part-time, Weekend Warrior, whatever, and they want to take it full-time, a general advice can you give somebody?
Honor the musician. Honor the artist. Be
Yeah.
true to the music.
Right. Or be true to
The
art.
songwriter, the artist, and from there on down to the venue, to the producer, to the just if you treat people, you'll get treated the way you treat people.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that I have a great reputation in the business for being nice and being honest and being having integrity.
So people wanted you more, and so because people wanted you more, you became full-time too.
Right.
In a lot of ways. What do you think, Marla? What's your bit of
I think
general
too.
advice?
I mean, I think, look, I say all the time, and I see it, and I've learned it from you today, that for me, I say it to potential clients and all my clients, that there's no bigger fan, there's no better publicist than your biggest fan. And that's really what I do. My clients, I love them all. I would die on the sword for each and every one of them. And I hear that with you, too. And I think that anybody who works with, for, around, about, to anyone, as long as you are their biggest fan, it works.
And for me, I would say play what you want to hear or do what you want to paint what you want to paint,
Write
promote
what you
who
wanna
you want to
write.
promote, all that.
Yeah.
Because it's part-time and Weekend Warriors, it's a small amount of time that you got to do it. And if it gets better and better and better because you're picking the right thing for yourself, it will turn into full-time. It can, because you're
Absolutely.
enjoying those moments.
Absolutely.
And you're finding your happiness. And that's what gets us to this next song. This is a new CD of ours called Bittersweet. This song is called Happy. And
great
this is
song.
one of Casey's favorites.
It's a great song.
And it's about finding happy somewhere in that cloud, somewhere down that road, somewhere behind that door. And
Go find it, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Z Spot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, ladies.
Happy is right around the corner. Happy is right behind the bend. Things are bound to get better. Get better, but we don't know when. We gotta find it, oh yeah. Wrap our arms around it, come on. We gotta get ourselves some more. Love is right there in that cloud. Love is right behind that door. Things are bound to get better. Get better like they were before. We gotta find it, oh yeah. Wrap our arms around it, come on. We gotta get ourselves some more. Get yourself some happy, and get yourself some